Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about Danny Ainge and his legacy as an executive of the Celtics. The comparison that I think fits super well is actually Joe Dumars. The Celtics in the last 5 years, they have been relevant. People wrote them off. When they traded away KG and Paul Pierce, a lot of people said it was too early. A lot of people said that was Rondo's fault. A lot of people said it wasn't going to work. And Brooklyn got the best end of the deal. Brooklyn did not. And now we're looking, and the Nets are the one that eliminate the Celtics. But in the last 5 years, it's been the Cavs, Raptors, Heat. What do the Cavs, Raptors, and Heat all have in common? That the Celtics just do not. They took a risk. Jimmy Butler was an insane leader in Chicago, but could never get anything going. Goes to Minnesota. They get bounced out of the first round. He blames Minnesota. Goes to Philly. They get bounced out of the first round. He blames Philly. He goes to Miami. That was a huge risk by Miami. And then the Raptors. We talked about this before. They traded away their entire future for 1 year. Because the Cavs knew LeBron wasn't going to stay forever. Boston didn't want to give up enough for Paul George. Didn't want to give up enough for James Harden. Didn't want to give up enough for Anthony Davis. Didn't want to get up enough. And it's like, oh, it's cold in Boston. It's cold in Brooklyn. It's cold in New York. Point is okay, maybe weather was a factor. Maybe the people in the city was a factor. But to be honest, Danny Ainge didn't give up enough. Danny Ainge didn't make the superstar feel like a superstar in a superstar-driven league. Think about how I open this. This is also how I want to close it. And let me know what you guys think about Danny Ainge as an executive in those comments down below, obviously. Joe Dumars, even though I was only like 7 or 8 years old, I saw him put together this crazy, this guy's from Minnesota, this guy's from Washington, this guy's from Portland and gets a lot of technicals. We actually drafted this guy. This guy was almost out of the league, and they won a title. Right? Joe Dumars was a part of the Bad Boys team that won back-to-back. He was a 2-time champion as a player, and he's a 1-time champion as an executive. 1-time executive. Same for Danny Ainge. Give credit where credit's due. Danny Ainge drafted very well as a Celtic GM. And the Gordon Hayward thing might have worked out if he didn't get injured. Give credit where credit's due, right? You could even argue Danny Ainge is a better executive. I think a lot of Celtics fans would say that. He's a better executive than Joe Dumars, right? But here is a fact. They both won the same amount of titles as an executive. You never made that push for it. And as far as I'm concerned, that's Danny Ainge's biggest legacy, right? Joe Dumars, because as a player, he was a big name player. He was their best scorer, right? And then as a GM, brought together a crazy team that no one thought could work that way, right? And Danny Ainge, in a sense, did a lot of those things for Boston. But when Joe Dumars stepped down and was no longer the GM of the Detroit Pistons, I had that exact same feeling that I have now about Danny Ainge stepping down as a Celtics GM. Right? When Joe Dumars stepped down, my feeling was just, finally.